5 advantages of using an infrared heat blanket for your horse. Number 1. It warms. Heat blankets provide warmth to horses. However, if you cover it with a blanket that is too heavy, such as one with 300 grams fill, the heat can build up. It's a delicate balancing act to figure out how heavy the blanket should be for your horse. For example, if the weather worsens, it is snowing or windy, the horse may need a heavier blanket. Put the right blanket on your horse at the right time so he stays warm and doesn't have to use up all his calories trying to stay warm in the coldest weather. Number 2. It keeps dry. Honestly, this is even more important than the warmth factor. If your horse is wet, he will cool down. So if you can keep it dry, it will stay warm. Most people choose to put a blanket over their horse when it is predicted to be really wet and cold. This is mainly to keep it dry. In most cases, if the horse can stay dry, it will stay warm. But if it gets wet and doesn't have a protective layer of sebum to insulate it, it will cool down. This is where the waterproof factor in horse blankets comes into play. If the warming horse blanket is waterproof, your horse will stay dry. If the blanket is not waterproof, it will become heavy when saturated with water. So make sure you choose a high-quality waterproof blanket for your horse. If you can keep your horse dry, that's more than half the battle in keeping him warm during cold snaps. Number 3. It keeps your horse clean. Okay, this is one of the most important reasons why we need to cover our horse with a blanket. It stays clean. Especially if your horse is a furry monster in the winter. In the winter, the often humid weather helps dust and dirt settle deep into the horse's coat. If I cover the horse with a blanket, it is much easier to keep the horse clean and just give it a quick brush down and then ride. Number 4. A shorn horse needs a blanket. If you train your horse to sweat frequently, you may need to shear him when he grows a long, fluffy winter coat. And if your horse is clipped, he should wear a blanket at best. When the horse sweats, his long hair takes a long time to dry. On the other hand, a shorn horse has a hard time staying warm. But if you ride your horse regularly even in winter, a clipped coat is beneficial. At least where he sweats, which is where the girth goes, and at the front of his belly where the leg meets the body. And if you decide to shear him, he needs to wear a blanket to keep him warm, especially after a workout. Number 5. Infrared heat regulates. Infrared heat is the body equivalent of most mammals and humans. Therefore, this heat is particularly beneficial and regulating for horses as well. Outshare's heat blankets, for example, provide mobile infrared heat for your horse with a high-powered power bank, so the horse is not only kept warm, but his muscles are deeply warmed and stimulated to regenerate. This is especially important after training for riding horses. In addition, the heat blanket from Outshare, the comforter, is completely waterproof coated on one side, so that the blanket can be put on the horse even in bad weather and still not soaked.